Hello to all of our PSR families and anyone else who may be joining us. Hello guys. In the next video you're going to be watching, I referenced this book right here, but I wanted to show it to you and I didn't show it to you in the video. But this is the new Catechism of the Catholic Church. It was released in 1992. Our church is really still kind of getting used to using this particular book, but we're going to be using a lot of this in the upcoming weeks, so I wanted to show it to you. If anybody would like to purchase any of these, I'll be ordering some for a new class that I'll be starting in just a couple of weeks, in which we're going to go through this book. So hopefully you'll have an opportunity to do that. We'll be offering it both live and in person, but then also live stream as well. Hope to see you guys later, but this is the book, Catechism of the Catholic Church. If you don't have one, get it. See you all. Hello to all. Oh, and one other thing. I want to let you all know we have finally set a date for in-class instruction for our PSR students. We're going to begin with Mass on October 27th in St. Anne Church. This will be followed by an ice cream party for all of our students and their families. Hope to see you all there. October 27th, 6:45 we'll meet in the church. After the Mass is over, we'll go over to the cafeteria for a nice little party. Our in-class instruction, the actual classes, will begin the following Tuesday, November 3rd. So see you guys then, October 27th, November 3rd. Put it on your calendars now. God bless. Hello to all of our PSR families and anyone else who may be joining us. Hopefully you're still with us on our journey of faith. We have arrived now at the third stage of the program, and we will pivot once again in a new direction. Before we do so, let's look back upon where we have been. In our first two lessons, we built a strong foundation with which to build our program by learning to discuss and listen to each other as we purposefully set aside time to grow our relationship with each other and our Creator. After these two discussions, we turned to focus on Scripture and two focal stories regarding Jesus. The first was the question that Jesus posed as to what others were saying about him. Then we focused on the question of who each one of us believes about Jesus. Then we jumped forward to Jesus' death and resurrection and how he promised to be with us, although in a different form. In both of these stories, the focus was on Christ and how we see him. Beginning with this lesson and then into next week, we will now look at one of the most important publications in the history of our church. Now that's saying something. In our 2,000-year history, our church has produced only 2 universal catechisms for the church. The first was published in the year 1566, following the Protestant Reformation and after the Council of Trent. The purpose of this publication was to outline and define what the church believes and teaches, since at that time many of its doctrines were being attacked from those who had left the church. So the Pope and bishops needed to define and defend the deposit of faith that had been handed on to them since Christ and his apostles. So they carefully and methodically cataloged all of the important tenets of our faith for anyone wishing to discover them. This was called the Roman Catechism, and it was from this catechism that smaller, more targeted catechisms were produced, such as the Baltimore Catechism, which many of our older Catholics will remember. This universal catechism, the Roman Catechism, was the first such publication in the Church's histories because, quite frankly, it was the first time it had been needed. Never before had the Church's doctrines been so under attack as they were following the protests by Martin Luther and John Calvin and others. And so the Church, in an effort to save the souls of countless people, outlined the important beliefs that are critical to our faith and morals. As we move ahead to the 20th century, another pope, Pope St. John the 23rd, who was looking at the state of the church and the approaching second millennium, called together Catholic bishops, theologians, and even Protestants to discuss the path of the church in the modern era. This was called the Second Vatican Council. Nothing was off the table for these people, and the council lasted for 4 years. Then, following the council, the church had been wrestling for several years with the monumental impact that the council had on our church and the world. It would take 30 years before the most profound document from the council was produced. Although technically speaking, the Catechism of the Catholic Church isn't an official document of the Second Vatican Council, any church historian will tell you that without the council, it's unlikely the document would have been produced at all. And so, within many of our lifetimes, this new catechism was produced. And we are the recipients of the important impact of it, although quite frankly, most Catholics don't even quite realize it yet, since we're still living through its development. Having said all of that, the Catholic home that has a copy of this book is a fortunate home indeed. There has never been a more concise and well-sourced book ever produced. In the coming weeks, St. Anne Parish will offer a study course as an overview of this book. So you may want to consider participating either in person or even through live stream. But the value of this book cannot be understated. We will reference this book several times in the coming weeks, so hopefully you'll begin to see how important this book is to the church and to all Catholics and people of faith. Now, in this week's discussion, we'll look at a particular article in the Catechism that addresses the family. And since our focus in this program is growing your family's faith, I thought it was necessary to include it. The interesting thing about this article is that it refers to the family in a most unusual way, as a domestic church, which comes from one of the documents from the Second Vatican Council called Lumen Gentium. So our focus for discussion for this week will try to unpack and understand exactly what is meant by this term and why the church chooses to use it. For instance, have you ever referred to your family this way, as a domestic church? Or have you ever even heard it referred as such? What is your reaction to it? How does this impact your view of your family and your role within it? Now, these are serious and monumental questions, and if we seriously take them into consideration, we will find that it impacts a lot of what we'll do as a family, and hopefully it will influence how we practice our faith within our families. The purpose of this program is exactly this: to impact how our families practice our faith. And as we move through the series, I think you'll see that we have a very specific goal for you that will radically and hopefully permanently impact your family. If you're still here with us, you have certainly put a major contribution to the faith life of your family, and I commend you for that. But we'll make sure that it's worth your time. I hope your journey with us is paying off for your family, and I pray that God will bless your family as He blesses His church. Please know that we are praying for each of you, and we are looking forward to meeting back in person very soon. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week. God bless.